This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Rising Cloud, which I hadn't heard of before. But they're doing something vaguely interesting here. They are using AI, which is usually where my eyes glaze over and I lose attention, but they're using it to help developers be more efficient by reducing repetitive tasks. So the idea being that you can run stateless things without having to worry about scaling, placement, et cetera, and the rest. They claim significant cost savings, and they're able to wind up taking what you're running as it is in AWS with no changes and run it inside of their data centers that span multiple regions. I'm somewhat skeptical, but their customers seem to really like them. So that's one of those areas where I really have a hard time being too snarky about it, because when you solve a customer's problem and they get out there in public and say, we're solving a problem, it's very hard to snark about that. Multis Medical, Constructs.ai, and Stacks have seen significant results by using them, and it's worth exploring. So if you're looking for a smarter, faster, cheaper alternative to EC2, Lambda, or Batch, consider checking them out. Visit risingcloud.com/benefits. That's risingcloud.com/benefits. And be sure to tell them that I sent you, because watching people wince when you mention my name is one of the guilty pleasures of listening to this podcast. Good morning and welcome to the AWS Morning Brief. It's been an interesting week. Last week, Amazon's earnings came out and their stock soared because the market is still apparently amazed that AWS continues to sell computers. But I don't get the point of being surprised here. Cloud bills get bigger with time, customer footprints continue to expand, and new customers continue signing up. It is really hard for me to see anything changing any one of those three truths in even the medium term. And it was also a slow week last week from AWS, because my guess is that this is based on their internal performance and planning calendar. Peer evaluations consumed Amazonians for a few days, and that feels like it might be causing delays in feature releases. But, we'll take what we can get. Let's see what came out, because they'd had a lot of blog posts instead. Amazon MSK now offers the ability to scale storage throughput up to 1,000 megabits per broker. Cool. Do this cross AZ, and data transfer fees mean that you'll be the one who ends up broker. But since we don't pay for broker-to-broker traffic within an AZ, this unlocks some use cases that were previously closed to MSK. AWS Systems Manager now supports higher concurrency for automation executions. You can now screw up your automations and destroy your production environment far faster than you could previously. Amazon EC2 customers can now use Recycle Bin to recover from accidental deletions of Amazon machine images. Recycle Bin is a useful feature, but I'd rename it to something like AWS, oh shit, undo, my boss is going to murder me with an axe, if I were an AWS namer. AWS Secrets Manager now supports rotation windows. The first time a secret doesn't get rotated in a 4-hour rotation window, we're renaming this service to AWS Comcast Service Appointment. You have been warned. How Deloitte is improving animal welfare with AI at the edge using AWS Panorama. And I gotta confess here, improving animal welfare in slaughterhouses is, not the Disney-esque uplifting story that I was expecting when I clicked the link. Financial crime discovery using Amazon EKS and graph databases. If someone sells you EKS and a graph database, a financial crime has indeed been committed. Mocking service integrations with AWS Step Functions Local. I still feel like I need a brain upgrade to grok step functions, so I default to lazy jokes about how I mock service integrations via this podcast. I might need to step it up a bit. Continuous delivery of Amazon EKS clusters using AWS CDK and CDK pipelines. Continuously deploying Kubernetes clusters might, and I'm just speculating here, be partially responsible for why AWS is now a $71 billion a year business. This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Chaos Search. You could run Elasticsearch or Elastic Cloud or OpenSearch, as they're calling it now, or a self-hosted Elk stack. But why? Chaos Search gives you the same API you've come to know and tolerate, along with unlimited data retention and no data movement. Just throw your data into S3 and proceed from there as you would expect. This is great for IT operations folks, for app performance monitoring, cybersecurity. if you're using Elasticsearch, consider not running Elasticsearch. They're also available now in the AWS Marketplace if you'd prefer not to go direct and have half of whatever you pay them count toward your EDP commitment. Discover what companies like Equifax, Armor Security, and Blackboard already have. To learn more, visit chaossearch.io and tell them I sent you just so you can see them facepalm yet again. Best Buy is the latest retailer to select the AWS cloud. That's right, yesterday's Amazon's showroom is today's AWS reference customer. Use a web browser plugin to quickly translate text with Amazon Translate. Is AWS aware that they could just, create this plugin and put it up on the browser plugin galleries themselves rather than making anyone who wants to do this do a whole bunch of work? How to enable Amazon CloudWatch alarms to send repeated notifications. 5,000 things to fix in CloudWatch, and they pick, let's make it more annoying. Manage AWS account alternate contacts with Terraform. Tell AWS who to contact about certain things as a bunch of ways that you could approach it as far as problems go. Write a whole mess of code is a clear indicator that ClickOps can't get here fast enough. And finally, organizing your AWS control tower landing zone with nested OUs. I've come to believe there are two types of people. The kind of person who organizes things hierarchically, like this post suggests, and then people like me who toss all their stuff into an undifferentiated pile and depend upon strong search functionality to find what they need. Those people are probably a lot happier. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I am cloud economist Corey Quinn. Thank you very much for listening.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.